We'll call our October 19th meeting of the Cookeville City Council to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Woodford.
Present.
Councilman Henry.
Here.
Mayor Shelton.
Here.
Vice Mayor Epps. Councilman Womack.
Here.
4 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those that wish to do so to stand for the invocation given tonight by Councilman Henry, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag.
Let's bow for prayer. Heavenly Father, we're a grateful people. We thank you, first of all, for your great love for us. We thank you and rejoice in the community that we have. We thank you for wisdom and clarity of mind as we make decisions to lead this community. And we just believe that we receive these things in the name of your Son and our Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3, consider approval of agenda as presented. Are there any changes?
Mayor, we have no changes to the agenda.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. Under old business, 5A, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on October 5th, 2017. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
5B, consider on second and final reading ordinance 0161225, closing undeveloped alleys located off South Oak Avenue and Depot Street and declaring them as surplus and declaring portions of the right-of-way along Depot Street as surplus. Sponsor James Mills.
Mayor and council members, this ordinance was approved on first reading back in January. Let me get to a map. This was the area that was looked at in January. The request was submitted by David Allen on behalf of Oxon Wilson LLC. They own all the parcels that surround these alley right-of-ways in the portion of Depot Street. They offered at the time in January in partial exchange some right-of-ways or some portions of their properties that will be dedicated as right-of-ways. That had not been determined, the exact boundaries of that, and we have delayed second reading until that could be determined. They recently did submit a survey. This is the current survey depicting what properties they propose to exchange. That has increased greatly for what we originally anticipated. They also have modified the amount of right-of-way that they would want to obtain off of Depot Street. That actually has reduced. So it's pretty close to, would be pretty close to an even swap. However, because of this is such an extreme change from what we originally considered, we're of the opinion that we need to start over and have this resubmitted to the Planning Commission. And based on that, we would recommend that ordinance number 161225 be rejected.
Okay, so is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we reject this and send it back to the Planning Commission.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Just a question, James. Our action on this particular item in no way indicates that the project is not going forward, it in no way indicates that, does it? It just means we're going back to the Planning Commission with some new thoughts and ideas about this particular situation.
That's correct, and it's scheduled to go to the Planning Commission at their next meeting. We had a discussion about that today. I'd anticipate this to be approved. It's just such a substantial change from what we included in the descriptions in the original ordinance and what they're proposing to exchange with us that we felt it'd be best to start over and everybody have a clear picture of what's actually transpiring here.
Okay.
From a legal standpoint, the changes were too dramatic. You can have some changes between first and second reading, but these changes are so dramatic, this needs to be rejected and go back to the Planning Commission and just start fresh.
Okay, so we have a motion to reject and a second. Any other discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, thank you. Under new business, 7A, consider resolution R171017 requesting the Planning Commission to review a plan of services for territory under consideration to be annexed by referendum. Mr. Mills.
Mayor and council members, as you're aware, we've received petitions requesting annexation from the owners of 7 of 9 parcels in an area we've designated as the Mackey Farm area. As you may also know, the legislature has amended the state statutes for annexation, and the city may no longer annex by ordinance. Under the current legislation, the city may annex by resolution when all property owners in an area proposed for annexation have submitted signed petitions requesting annexation. When all the property owners in the area have not requested annexation, then the city may only annex through referendum. In either case, A plan of services for the area proposed for annexation must be prepared and must be reviewed by the Planning Commission. We're following MTS recommendations for best practices here. And the resolution before the council officially requests that the Planning Commission review a plan of services for the Mackey Farm annexation area. The plan of services was prepared by the Planning Department after consultation with the applicable departments. And we would recommend for adoption of resolution number R17-1017.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
you.
7B, consider resolution R171018, authorizing participation by the City of Cookeville, Tennessee in the HGAC BUY Cooperative Purchasing Program contract. Ms. Emmel.
Mayor and council, this resolution will authorize us to participate in a purchasing cooperative via an interlocal agreement. Purchasing cooperatives exist to bring buying power to the competitive bidding process. Governments large and small throughout the country use similar equipment. So these cooperatives serve as kind of a professional purchasing agent. They will do the competitive bid process, and then they will award contracts to the successful bidder. And then the members of the cooperative then can take advantage of those contracts and make purchases off those contracts, thus saving time and, in most cases, money. HGAC BUY is this type of cooperative. It's a purchasing program of the Houston, Galveston area governments in Texas, and has many competitively bid contracts covering fire equipment and vehicles. As you know, we have money in the budget to purchase a new fire truck, and our fire chief has been doing research and would like to be able to consider this option of a purchasing cooperative purchase. Other communities in Tennessee have used HGAC BUY in recent years. The actual purchase of the truck, when the chief gets ready to, will be coming to you for approval at another meeting. But this resolution before you tonight will just allow us to become members of this cooperative so that we can consider this as an option. There's no cost for becoming a member, and there's no commitment to making a purchase, and I would recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Brendan, if I may, if I recall from our work session, this item became necessary when the grant we applied for to get the fire truck did not come through for the city of Cookeville.
That's correct.
And the goal, by joining this cooperative, which costs the city nothing, the goal is to be able to buy the truck less expensively than we might be able to buy it on our own. Is that what
That's
we're trying to
correct.
accomplish?
That's
here?
correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7C, consider approval of supplement to the engineering contract for the performance of right-of-way acquisition assistance for the Multimodal Access Grant Project, East Spring Street Sidewalk Project. Ms. Kiefer.
Mayor and council, what we have for you tonight is the next step of our TDOT multimodal grant that we have to do sidewalks along Spring Street, Carlin Drive, and Raider Drive. This is our right-of-way acquisition phase. This is a contract for consultant services for Reagan Smith to do right-of-way acquisition. This contract also includes 3 sub-consultants that will perform duties as required by TDOT, such as appraisal, review appraisal, and negotiations. Our sidewalk project currently includes 22 tracks of permanent easements, some of which will be donated, owned by the county. The contract amount that we have before you tonight is for $110,600. This is a 95-5 matching grant. Our local match is 5%, and I request your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second. Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. 7D, consider approval of Grind Line Skate Parks as a subcontractor to HFR Design for the Parkview Skate Park project to be located at 580 Scott Avenue. Mr. Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As you are aware, the city of Cookeville is contracted with HFR Design as the lead design firm for our skate park project at Parkview, the old Parkview pool. And in that capacity, they will provide us with documents, including architectural plans for the restroom, engineering designs and services for the projects, as well as the project, as well as preparing bid documents and advertisements and managing the construction bid process. But we need a specialist to come in and help us with the to act as a subcontractor for HFR Design to come in and do the actual skate elements of the skate park. And so we, with HFR Design, developed a request for proposal, sent those out, received 4 proposals from 4 qualified companies, all good proposals. And we had a committee to review those proposals, including 2 folks who are here tonight. Andy Hill and Louis Vaden are here with us tonight. Also, Heather Call was part of that committee, and I reviewed them as well as HFR Design representatives reviewing those. And they were all good proposals, but we felt like Grind Line Skate Parks was the best proposal. We're convinced that Grind Line Skate Parks was the best proposal. They scored the highest, and we are here to ask you to approve Grind Line to act as a subcontractor for HFR Design to do the skate elements of our skate park. This will not, the fees for Grind Line are already incorporated in our agreement with HFR Design, so this is not looking at any cost, additional costs other than what we've already committed to with HFR. I'd like to say that Louis and Andy are here, and if they'd like to add anything to that in terms of what Grind Line has to offer, I would welcome their comments, but I would recommend your approval.
Yes, Em, come, welcome to share.
Oh, good. Andy Hill.
Hello. Just want to say I've been very honored to be a part of this this project, and Grind Line, I assure everybody on the city council, is the best choice to build it, and you're going to have a world-class skate park coming into Cookeville, Tennessee. There's going to be people traveling from all over to ride this park, so it's cool. I thank you guys for your time and everything, and
Thank
I
you.
look forward to helping further with the design process.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Any discussion? It's exciting. I know that we'll have another committee. This isn't the only committee we'll have of local. We'll have
That is correct.
a design committee as well.
We've had preliminary discussions with HFR and Grind Line about starting this design process the week of November 6th, 7th, and 8th, and we
Okay.
will have a public meeting and public input on that design at that time.
And Andy and Louis, y'all be in on that as well, right? Good. Very good.
Is there a timeline for, hopefully?
Ideally depending on weather, depending on a lot of different things, but by summer of 18, we think it's possible that we could be skating there. We hope, at least by fall.
Okay.
And to the point of all this, the chart that you see up there, the scoring, it wasn't even close. I mean, there was the next closest one was 20 some odd points behind based on all the, so there was an extensive look at along a lot of different things. So it's exciting to have a world-class company to build us a world-class park that's everyone's waited so long for. So any other comments? Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think this is part of the things that are making Cookeville a great place to live. Is like we've got soccer complex, softball, baseball complex, and now a skateboard complex. It'll bring people in, and they'll spend money. And right now, we were hearing about our bond rating, is good. So I think this will help a bond rating even more to have things like this in our city.
Very good. All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7E, consider authorizing the city manager to enter into an engineering contract to design the sewer improvements required to serve the industrial commercial area at Boyd Ferris Road and Highway 111. Ronnie Kelly.
Mayor and council, I'm seeking authorization for the council to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with CTI Engineering Incorporated to design some sewer improvements at the Boyd Ferris, the industrial commercial area at the Boyd Ferris interchange that will serve that area. We've negotiated an engineering fee of $43,000 with CTI. We're also in negotiations or in communications with the contractor that's currently putting in some low-pressure sewer on the Royal Oak. And if they will be agreeable to a change order at the current prices, we can reduce this engineering fee by $10,600. And we also have the option, if we have staff available to do some of the project inspection, we could also reduce that cost by another $13,400. And if we do get something worked out with the Royal Oak contractor, we would be bringing that change order back to you guys, but I would recommend your approval.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7F, consider approval to make final payment to W&O Construction for the completion of the wastewater treatment plant improvement project. Mr. Kelly.
Mayor and council seeking authorization to make payment, the final payment to W&O Construction Company for the completion of the wastewater treatment plant project. Council approved that project back in April of 2016 in the amount of $2,375,500. We did one change order in that project for $4,815. We replaced the UV system down there. We replaced our SCADA system, which is a pretty big undertaking, and did a lot of other things, lighting, lots of things that we needed to do. So it was a pretty good project. But the project was due to be complete on January 28, 2017. W&O reached substantial completion on September 8, 2017, and by the contract, they were 223 days beyond the days allowed in the contract. The contract states that it would be $500 per day due to the city of Cookeville for every day, calendar day beyond the completion date. So that would equal $111,000 and $111,500. W&O has sent us a letter requesting that we'd only withhold just our actual cost and damages. We have calculated those to be $41,069.51 and would make a recommendation to just withhold that amount on the final payment.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I could, let me say first of all, before my brief remarks, W&O Construction has a great reputation, a great track record with the city of Cookeville. They're good corporate citizens, they're good people. So my brief remarks are not pointed at this company, but more about the process. And I couldn't help but think, Ronnie, when we were in our work session the other day, about the first time I ran for council, I went by the hardware store to see Mayor Bob Petit, who was mayor for a couple of terms. And I said, Mayor, what if you could know then what you know now, what would you like to know? And he said, well, I used to think that I could come to an issue and it would be black or could be white, and I know what to do and how to vote. He said, but I found there's a lot of gray. And I think this might be that kind of issue where there's a lot of gray. My concern and my thoughts have to do with this, because we're going to be dealing with this situation with the late finishing of a project, another one in the not too distant future, and I don't know what the answer is, but I think this council needs to contemplate the direction we're going here. We could say, okay, if we're not going to enforce these things to their fullest, then why put them in there in the first place and just not even put them in there? Or we could turn this legislative body into a judicial body and judge on a case-by-case basis on what we're going to do or not, what we're not going to do. But I don't know. I'm not in my own mind settled about a direction on that. But what I don't want ever to see happen, and I think the council would agree with this, is that companies who do business with the city say, yeah, there's some penalties in there, but at the end of the day, the city of Cookeville's not going to enforce these, so we're just going to be kind of have a close for government work kind of attitude about it, and not be too bothered if we don't finish it on time. So these are just thoughts that I've had about this process, because I know we've got another one. But this is not about W&O. This is about thinking about how we handle these things and whether we enforce these things or not, or whether we act on them on a case-by-case basis. But that's the gray that I'm talking about there.
Yes, I mean, one of the things that we could do is just change the language in a contract to reflect actual damages instead of, that'd be a legal question that we'd want to discuss with our attorney. Because now we put a dollar amount per day and then have fallen back to what is our actual damage to keep our ratepayers whole. And so that's where we are here with this, not trying to be punitive to the contractor.
Ronnie,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
you've been director for a while. How many times have you had to?
We've done it a
as
few times.
contractor? I mean, it's not.
Oh, it's not all the time, but it happens.
And it's different situations of circumstances, whether it be weather related or supply.
Usually with weather related, that's accounted for in the contract, so that usually doesn't come into play. It's usually they're late for whatever reason.
Okay.
To answer
Councilman Henry's question and speak to Mr. Kelly, we should always keep in our contract liquidated damages if we're concerned about people finishing. That way we don't have to go to court and quote prove our damages. It's kind of preordained what it is, and then when we calculate it, if the contractor doesn't agree, then we have liquidated damages, and they've already pre-agreed to what that amount would be. The key to this is to keep those liquidated damages in the appropriate contract, and then at the end of the contract see what harm has come to the city because of the delay or other non-performance, and make sure we always come out with no damage at all. And that's what Mr. Kelly's done in this case. Right. So really, the city is in exactly the same position financially as if this contract had been finished on time. There's no damage at all, but then again, we don't quote profit because of the misfortune of W&O, because I understand in this case, it really wasn't their fault. It was some subcontractor's fault that was beyond their control. So the city's coming out perfectly, just like it ought to, and W&O isn't being penalized for something that wasn't their fault. So
yeah, and I didn't mention
okay.
that, but W&O was a victim of two subcontractors. You know, we spec'd who we wanted for the SCADA system and for the big UV unit, and they had some issues with those subcontractors. It wasn't W&O's fault, but even though they're the prime contractor. So, I mean, I understand there's contracting, and these type projects are complicated, and you run into a lot of stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I think, you know, again, the city is made whole. The taxpayers, ratepayers are not out any money. And then the second thing, I think you made a very good point about we want to have this in there, but I think there should always be allowance made. Not that we should give away to the ratepayer, but there should always be allowance made too for local contractors. Just period. I mean, they're here, they're paying taxes, they're employing people in our community. So I think we always have to look at that and fall back to that. But again, our ratepayers are made whole, and so I can agree that this is the right thing to do in this situation.
Ronnie, you're withholding in the contract. How much money was it you were holding back that you controlled?
$111,000.
So if he'd been on time, he would have got that amount of money back, correct?
Yes.
So he is being penalized $41,000.
$41,000, that's right. Because that's our
But
actual
it's true
damage.
cost to the
It's
city.
true cost.
True cost
to
to us.
the ratepayer in the city. So anyway, yeah, it's not about this is just a case that happens to be the case at this moment. But we'll move forward and always look at these objectively and make sure our ratepayers are made whole. All right, all vote.
Thank
4
you.
yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7G, consider canceling the regularly scheduled council meeting on November 16th, 2017. Mike Davidson.
Mayor and council members, at our last work session, I brought to you to talk about the possibility of canceling our November 16th council meeting. I'm asking you to consider that. I will be out of town that week. It's certainly not required that I be here, but I certainly would like to be here for the council meeting. I know Dr. Womack will be out of town that week as well. We've talked through it through staff several weeks ago, the possibility of what would happen if we could, or if the council meeting was canceled. I think we have everything scheduled through the department directors. They've been aware of it. They've tried to bring things to you that were critical. We have another council meeting the 1st of November, November 2nd. So I would ask you to consider canceling that meeting. And anything that might be heard at the November 2nd meeting, we certainly will bring that back to you at the first meeting in December. But I would ask you to consider canceling that meeting.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, that brings us to the end of the agenda portion of the meeting. We now have time for citizens that would like to address the council on non-agenda items. Do we have anyone? Yes, sir. If you'll come to the lectern and identify yourself, give your name and address. A statement of no more than 3 minutes can be made on items of general relevance, and once the timer sounds, you'll need to wrap up your comments within 10 seconds.
I'm going to go ahead and pass these. I've got 5 copies of documents on this. Okay. Councilman, City Manager, City Mayor, thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk. My name is Richard Edward Buford. I'm retired U.S. Navy. I'm a new resident of Cookeville, Tennessee. I've only lived here 2 years. I live at 1245 Eastwood Drive here in Cookeville. I am here to talk to you about your tree ordinance. We're all aware of the storm that came through Cookeville in May. Well, I'm still having problems today because of this, because of my neighbor, Miss Jane Perry, who lives next door to me. I came to city officials in July discussing my concerns. This is your tree ordinance. This is your law. It states, tree removal, dead, diseased, or dying trees that pose a safety or health risk to residents, utility lines, service lines, or to other trees shall be removed in a timely manner. This section will apply to both public and private trees. The tree board will make the risk determination. If the tree is on private property, the city will serve notice of said risk and specify a reasonable time for removal to be accomplished by the owner. If the tree is on public property, the appropriate governmental department will be contacted with recommendation this tree to be removed. The second page that I have in this report is from the Cookeville Tree Board, who met on September the 5th, 2017. This notice is issued by the Cookeville Tree Board in regard to hazard trees in violation of the City of Cookeville, Tennessee Tree Ordinance, Section 18107 SA and 58. The response to a residential concern is deemed hazardous by 2 certified arborists serving on the Cookeville Tree Board. The landlord shall have 15 days to return the property to compliance. The next paper I have for you to review is an estimate from Redbud Landscapes here in Cookeville. First statement at the top. Removal of 8 potentially hazardous trees that could cause significant damage to structures, vehicles, and possibly pose a risk of bodily harm or death. These trees are threatening my property, and there's not 8, there's 9. I have a chocolate lab that I've had in a pen, and branches, which you have photos, have almost hit that dog several occasions, to the point the dog doesn't want to go in that part of the yard. I have spoke to my neighbor, Miss Perry. I have been nice. When she brought a logging company in to clear all of her empty trees back there, I offered to pay for those trees to be trimmed so they wouldn't be a hazard to my property. She refused all 3 in every attempt. I've written her 7 letters. In 2 years, my electricity's gone off 6 times. I've lost cable about 7 or 8 times because of these trees on her property. One of the trees is an old dead oak tree, which when it falls, it's going to go through my garage, through my cars, and hit my house. And it will cause significant damage of over $150,000. In my Navy experience, we tried to take care of problems before they happened or occurred. And if something was a threat, we took care of it before it happened. Now, I've talked to your city manager. Your city attorney is aware. Also, your arborists were very pleasant and understanding, and all of the professionals agree it is a threat to my property. The trees have been marked. Another arborist came out 2 days ago, and I asked him to come over with Miss Perry. She saw all of the trees. He agreed totally with my conclusion, and still to this day, I cannot. If you'll see the pictures, I bought my home because of the beautiful backyard I had. Because I served my country at sea almost 20 years, and I didn't have a backyard. Now, if you'll see the pictures that are current from last year to this year, you'll see what my backyard looks like. And I can't start any work until it's done. And here's my last complaint. September the 13th, I put in a request through Ms. Fowler, through you, for all documentation, all emails, all paper regarding my requests for assistance and conclusions made by members of your staff. As of today, I've received 1 piece of paper, a copy of the tree board thing, nothing else. Now, I have been reasonable, and I'm at the point I'm going to have to sue an 82-year-old lady. And when you get an attorney involved, you're talking big bucks. And I really don't want to take my neighbor to court and then have my other neighbors thinking I'm a bad guy. If you have an ordinance, you have a responsibility to these citizens to enforce that ordinance. If somebody was throwing trash out, you would enforce that. If somebody hit a car or something, you would give them a ticket or something.
I'm going to ask you to wrap it up. You're
That's
quite a
it.
bit
I
over.
made my statements.
Okay.
I hope you'll consider that, and I thank you for the time to hear my complaints.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And I'd like to have my pictures back and I'll leave.
They're right here. Would you hand them to them, please?
That's it.
Mayor and council,
Yeah.
just happy to say I have spoken with Mr. Buford, talked through it with Mr. Rader as well. Again, there is an ordinance. I believe the tree board has sent a letter to his neighbor notifying them or her about the trees themselves. But when it comes down to it, I don't believe that ordinance gives the city the authority to make her cut those trees. I don't know how we would do that. And I've talked over it with Mr. Rader, and I don't know if Dan has any additional comments as
No,
well.
I think this is just a civil dispute between two neighbors, and I think I know as bad as you hate to do it, I think that's why lawyers are in business, and there's several lawyers in town, and I think that's going to be your remedy in court, Mr. Buford. I'm sorry to say that, but the city just doesn't have the authority to go on somebody's private property to cut the trees unless it is interfering with the city utilities and the city easements. And then they can trim the limbs and things like that. So
Arborist from the electric company has stated that it interferes with electrical service.
well,
Okay, and that's in your ordinance here. Also, she's cut all these trees down. Now it's a health issue because the rats and the rodents are going to come in the area and a fire hazard. But thank you for your time. I hope you understand how I would feel and how you would feel as a homeowner if you had to deal with this. But you have an ordinance, and you should put penalties to have teeth in your ordinance to be able to enforce it. And I don't understand why you don't. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To our attorney or to our city manager, that sounds like a reasonable statement to me. If we have an ordinance, but we can't enforce it or don't enforce it, I mean, why do we have it? I guess I'm getting back to something that I said a little while ago. I mean, why put it out there if it doesn't have any teeth in it? I mean, I guess I'm asking Mike, or I don't know. It's
I
just
mean,
an observation.
it's like we have an ordinance that says you can only go 30 miles an hour, but if somebody goes 40 miles an hour and has an accident, we don't sue the people for that accident. They have to get their own private lawyer and sue the person who was exceeding the speed limit, and they use that ordinance to say you violated the city ordinance, you're in violation of that ordinance, therefore you're legally liable. Well, the same would be true in this. If this lady is violating the city ordinance, she would be legally liable to this gentleman in civil court. But the ordinance does not, I mean, if we take private property away from a private landowner, then that's why you have eminent domain, and that's under condemnation and things like that. And we just can't go into somebody's private property and start doing things like that, unless it's on our easement or interfering with our easement. And we do have special rules about that. But if it's just generally on her property, that's between the neighbors to sort that out. I know, the law with respect to trimming trees gives neighbors the right to trim the trees to their property line, and he can go straight up his property line and cut those if that's what he wants to do. But if she's creating a problem on her property that's interfering with his use of property, that's his lawsuit against her, and the city is really, I mean, if he violates our ordinance, that just makes her legally liable to him when they get to civil court.
If you went over 30 miles an hour, you get a speeding ticket from the city.
Well,
Don't we have ordinances that if a lot is grown up and it's grown and it's whatever, that we can go in and mow and clean it up and then basically charge the owner to do that? Do we not have?
Yes, we do.
I'm just throwing it out there.
It's just discussion among the council right now, please.
It seems very ironic that we can do that. We can go mow the grass, we can go clean it up, then send them a bill for it. But in this situation, and I don't want to bring harm to an 82-year-old lady either, but it's obvious there's an issue here, and it's a shame that apparently we're in a position where we can't do anything about it. I guess.
We can, I guess potentially the fines to cite her to city court is one option, but that's a $50 fine. I don't think the judge can make her remove those trees.
We had a gentleman just the other day in city court who didn't clean his lot up and didn't clean the vegetation, and he was prosecuted in city court, and Judge Ledbetter gave him a $50 fine plus the court cost, and I think it cost him a total of $200 for each violation. I think there were 3 violations, and he had to pay $600, but that didn't clean the lot up, but he was fined.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what Mr. Littrell does, and you're right, the city, in minor situations can give notice and go in and cut the grass and things like that, but we're talking about a $26,000 undertaking that this gentleman wants the city to do. And I just don't think the ordinance would allow us to invade somebody's property in that significant a fashion at all under these circumstances.
Well, didn't Mr. Buford offer to pay on some of this?
I don't know. He left. So, anyone else that would like to address the council? Yes. Come to the lectern and identify yourself. Statement of 3 minutes may be made on items of general relevance.
My name is Debbie Fletcher. I own my father's mustache. I have some pictures. I have a business on 848 North Jefferson Avenue, the corner of 9th. I'm Mr. Wayne's daughter. We opened up a salon in honor of him, and we're having problems with the parking. There are 3 slots beside our business that are parallel parking. People park backwards. They park there indefinitely for days. People live in the dorms. There's pictures showing the hang tags in the vehicles. There's apparently no ordinance or anything, law saying that you have a time limit in parallel parking. So people are parking there. It's affecting our revenue. We do collect sales tax. Our customers are having to walk from College Side Church over. People are blocking the one side on the teak house. On that side, it's 1 hour parking. The other side that we are on, that is down from Spanky's, is supposedly Tennessee Tech's gold parking. And then you have a section that they say is parallel parking, but there's no lines, and they park catty corner. They block our back parking lot where we can't access that, and I'm asking for you to please, I pick up garbage, I pick up beer bottles, I pick up all the time. I don't call the city asking you to come pick this trash up. I would like to adopt those 3 parking lot spots or change it like on 6th Street to 1 hour or 2 hour. It's just not fair for our businesses to let tech students park for weeks at a time right beside your business. So my complaint, that is my complaint, and I would seeking help that we call the police department when they're parked, and they tell us, they might come and they might not. This is a nitpicky issue for the police department to have to deal with on the daily. So I'm just asking for some help. And our landlord, Mr. Watts, he's tried to help us. We've put cones out. We can't put cones out. Nobody knows who owns the parking space, the apartment complex behind us, and we're beside Spanky's, and we're all one property. And so nobody knows who owns, and apparently people just park catty corner, and it's okay. And there's no parking there. We would love to have that as employee parking during the day, not wanting to affect Spanky's. Spanky's, it's always had parking problems as well, but it is affecting our revenue now. So after 2 years, we were asking some help.
Thank you.
We have 8 employees and we have 8 cars, plus we want our customers to not have to walk down the road to come get a haircut.
So, Mike, is this our right of way? Is it Tech? This property that she's talking about here on the street?
I believe the right-of-way, that would be on Jefferson, would be city right-of-way. I'm not sure. I was looking at the gold sign that she's got in this one photo.
That's the same side of the road we're on.
Yeah, I would have to just go out there and look at it with planning and get the police department to look at it as well. So I'm not sure exactly from the photo.
I will say the city is in the process of passing a new parking ordinance that could give you some significant relief on this issue once it passes.
Point, was there not an area on Walnut that you could adopt and you are responsible for keeping it clean. And that is all I'm wanting. I'm wanting the 3 parking lots beside our building that we could use for our customers and our employees. I mean, that's 3 slots, and there's plenty of others. And we've had multiple times the police comes out all the time. And we've had people come in being ugly and irate, saying I've parked here for years, you know, and I work at Tennessee Tech. I'm sorry, you know. Buy a parking ticket like everybody else at Tech. So I'm just asking for some help.
I'm not, your comment about Walnut, honestly, I have no idea if we've ever had reserved adopted
There used to be a
parking.
sign, when I was growing up, I lived on Stevens Street, there was a sign saying that it was adopted by so-and-so, and people kept it clean, and absolutely nobody remembers it, that I asked about. So, I would love to have 3 parking spaces beside my
you.
business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would ask Mike or Chief, how can we help her? Is there nothing we can do about this one either?
Right now, I think, as Dan mentioned, I'm assuming the new proposed parking ordinance is adopted. Maybe there's some things through that ordinance we could look at. Timed parking being one of those in that area. I don't know about adopted spaces or dedicated spaces, but certainly perhaps some time parking in that area, and we can look at it with the police department and our planning department as well.
And I've been aware that they do this on 6th Street. They've started ticketing, so apparently something had passed because people are getting ticketed now on 6th Street. So I'm asking for that same treatment on that street to happen on 9th.
Maybe we need parking meters again.
And make us some money.
They're electronic now. You can slide your debit card in there or something. So we'll look at it and see if
Okay.
there's can be a solution.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Council? Anybody have anything? I had a couple things before we had signed a couple of proclamations. This week is Pharmacy Week in recognition of pharmacists and all that they do for our citizens. And then also next week at Tennessee Tech, it's Chemistry Week. They have a huge celebration there at Tech involving the STEM Center, and there's lots of activities. I know they've got several pages that you can go to check out all the things that are going on next week, and including a run and some other things. So appreciate both of those groups. And anybody else have anything? All right, we are adjourned.